Thank you all for coming today. My name is Hannah. I'm part of the RMA of New York team, and we are so thrilled to be the official fertility partner of Gotham FC. We are, as part of our partnership, we're educating and empowering our fans to really take control of their reproductive health and learn everything that they didn't learn in health class. So without further ado, let's go and start with some intros. We'll start with Amanda Rice.
Hi guys, I'm Amanda Rice, the CEO and founder of the Chick Mission, which is a nonprofit fiercely dedicated to helping young women with cancer learn about the impact of treatment on their fertility, ultimately help them preserve their ability to become a mom after treatment, because the stats on young adult survivorship keep going up, which is wonderful, but we're really focused on your kind of full life after cancer.
So my name is Dr. Matthew Letterman. I'm one of the fertility specialists, part of the RMA New York team. I've been part of the RMA New York team for over 10 years, and I'm the practice director of our Westchester program.
I'm Nan Vogel, Senior Vice President of Partnerships, Game Day Experience, and Community and Social Impact at Gotham FC. I also am responsible for having negotiated our U.S. Fertility and RMA of New York partnership, which we're very proud of here at Gotham. So thank you to the support that we receive from our partner. I'm really excited to chat today.
Hi everybody, my name is Amanda Lassane. I'm a Vice President of Sales at Progyny, and we provide fertility benefits to many employers across the country that provide coverage to their employees through Progyny, but I'm also a fertility patient myself. Went through an incredibly long fertility journey, and a huge part of my passion is helping patients navigate the journey and understand the hardship that you go through and what it feels like to be supported as you go through that journey. So I'm happy to share my story there, and I am at kind of an old home here. My husband actually used to coach for Red Bull, so it's a little bit strange for me to be here. He now coaches for DC United, which is where we are, but it feels interesting to be here, totally different.
Bit of a home brand.
Yeah.
Rebrand. All right, Dr. Letterman, can you just start us off with what is fertility preservation? Let's just set the stage there.
So fertility preservation is a process of freezing eggs and embryos for future use. And frozen eggs or embryos, they're frozen indefinitely and they don't age. Many years ago, egg freezing, it didn't work that well. And the reason it didn't work that well, the old way we used to freeze eggs, a process called slow freezing. The problem is when you unfroze the eggs, a lot of them didn't survive, and therefore there wasn't the best pregnancy rates. Over the course of time, we changed the way we freeze eggs to the same way as we freeze embryos, which is a process called vitrification, which is a rapid way of freezing eggs and embryos. And that's been a game changer. So now, where embryos used to be so much better than eggs, embryos are only slightly better. And that's where fertility preservation plays a major role, because what happens is as one gets older, they have fewer eggs, and the quality starts to go down. Doesn't mean someone can't get pregnant, but it may take a little longer. Older eggs are more proliferalized than normally, and miscarriage rates go up. So egg freezing allows you to take control, or even freezing embryos, allows you to take control of your biologic clock. And it's essentially a backup plan, for many women. And it gives them options, for something in the future. Because once again, these eggs or embryos, they simply, do not age.
Awesome. And sort of leading that further, who's a good candidate for this? Like, what types of patients do you see coming to the clinic?
So what's happening in society, more and more women are meeting their partner later in life, and therefore either starting or expanding and growing their family. And age is the biggest factor when it comes to success. As I mentioned before, age is the biggest player. And more women are aware than ever that age is the biggest factor. And maybe it's not for baby number 1, or maybe it's for baby number 2, all right? Or 3, it depends what is the ultimate goal, for a family. And like I said, it's a backup plan. So where a lot of, in the old days, I don't say the old days, but many years ago, the average age of freezing eggs was late 30s. Now it's early 30s. And this is, allowing more women, to focus on their career. And, because of that, some women are not meeting the partner until later in life, like I said before. So, we see more and more women who are coming in at an early age to freeze their eggs, take control. But there are some other situations where preserving the fertility is important. For example, as Amanda mentioned before, someone who has cancer, who's going to experience chemotherapy, is very harmful to ovarian function. So that's something we will unfortunately see more often than you would think, someone to freeze eggs or embryos before they undergo chemotherapy. There are certain medications that also may be harmful to the ovaries, or certain medical conditions where patients may make sense to freeze eggs or embryos. There are also some genetic situations where someone has a genetic mutation, they're carrier for something, and they want to prevent their offspring from inheriting that gene and risks that come with the gene, either risk for cancer, risk for certain medical issues related to that condition. And one of the things that is one of my special interests, due to my family situation, is someone who has a BRCA mutation. So my wife's a BRCA2 carrier, so I've been very involved with the hereditary cancer community. So someone who's a BRCA mutation, who's at risk of early on breast and ovarian cancer, as well as other cancers, they have the option of freezing eggs or embryos and screening that out down the road. So if they freeze eggs, that could create embryos in the future to then test the embryos to screen out to end the cycle. So I see a lot of women, and also men in that situation, to freeze eggs or embryos to screen it out of their offspring. Other patients who could take advantage of preserving their fertility is someone who's going to be a mom, single mom by choice, who's going to plan to use donor sperm, and they could either freeze eggs or embryos. Someone who's going to use donor sperm because they're part of the LGBTQ community, they could still preserve, their fertility by freezing eggs and embryos. So there's various, situations where women may benefit in those cases.
Amazing, thank you. And sort of continuing on that question, Nan, I want to hear a little bit more from you how this partnership came to be and how educating players and fans is so important in how this synergy works.
Yeah, absolutely. We started this conversation around a fertility services partner. Really, it was driven by our player and soccer operations group. Our players, obviously, being a professional athlete, you are micromanaging your body. It's not just like the way that we do maybe on a day-to-day basis, but every single thing you eat, every single thing you drink, your day-to-day is managed down to the minute. And with that, family planning is a big part of that. And so our players were really interested in having, as a benefit, a fertility services provider to come in and be a partner with us. So we started down the path with US Fertility. We got connected through another club that has a relationship, which is one of the beautiful things about NWSL, is that there's a lot of collaboration and information sharing and saying like, hey, we've got this great relationship. I think they might want to have a conversation with you. So really appreciative of that type of relationship as well. But we started the discussion and it kind of aligned on the package of services that were going to be available and structured a relationship between us that I think was mutually beneficial for everybody. And our players have been really excited about it. It gives them the flexibility to plan their life, to prepare for life after soccer in many cases. So, really able to think ahead and plan for the future.
Amazing. We're so happy to be here and that we're able to educate more and more fans. Amanda Rice, I want to hear a little bit more from you. We talked about the choice and planning, but with your background as a cancer survivor with the Chick Mission, I want to hear a little bit more about the oncofertility side and how there is some choice involved, but you're sort of thrusted into this world of fertility preservation and all these terms and all this good stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's apropos to be here where you have to kind of stick and move. Like you're playing a game, you're trying to win, you ultimately want to be a championship team. So for us, in the emergency of cancer, I'm a 3-time survivor, and I also will digress a minute and just say partners that have specialty benefits for fertility are so important because the fine print is what you need to look at. In my situation, the reason why the Chick Mission the idea hatched in my head was because I did have fertility benefits at the time. but they wouldn't honor them because it wasn't infertile yet. So they wanted me to be classically, the classic definition is you've been trying for 6 months without success. Well, partners like Progyny and others that are redefining that are so important, and you have to look at the fine print. So I had to go out of pocket in an emergency situation, had to make that decision within a few days to preserve my fertility. I ended up doing a few rounds of fertility preservation as my diagnosis kind of changed. 3-time survivor, so the first time I didn't have to have chemo, which was great, gave me a little bit more time to plan, but ultimately I did have to have chemotherapy and went into medically induced menopause. So I think, knowing, you're in this emergency situation, there are amazing providers and doctors that will walk you through it and hold your hand, because you really you're freaking out, and you're hit with this 1-2 punch of, you have cancer, and then you may not be able to have a child after you are done with treatment. So that ultimately, I think, is important, like the offense of being proactive and having resources like the Chick Mission, having resources like Progyny, having resources like RMA to come in and help you are incredibly important.
Thanks for sharing all that. I'm always impressed by your tenacity and everything that you continue to push. And then Amanda L, as Amanda R was talking about, all the ways in which Progyny supports patients, and I'd love to just hear a little bit more about how Progyny has been such a game changer, and if there are people in this room who are like, whoa, this is really interesting, I want to maybe have a fertility checkup, how can we get started, and how can Progyny support patients?
Absolutely, thank you. So about 460 employers across the country utilize Progyny today, and it represents a little bit over 6 million members across the country. So an incredible number of employees now have access to the best fertility coverage, I believe, in the country. And things like Amanda mentioned that are so important are the fine print, right? And making sure that everybody has access and equal access to coverage is really, really important. And I think one thing that I've seen, so my role at Progyny is a vice president of sales, and I work with employers directly when they had the benefit. And one thing that I've seen is that many times employers will actually add the benefit when an employee asks for it. So just like you were saying, right, it came from the soccer operations, and there were players that were interested. And so your voice really matters when it comes to asking for fertility coverage. I primarily cover the region of Texas, and had an employer implement the Progyny benefit about 2 years ago, and they implemented because there was an employee that had cancer that came to them and said, the coverage that we have today is not allowing me access, and they were devastated. And that employer knew that that wasn't right. That's not what they were wanted to represent in their benefits package. And so making sure to have access through somebody like Progyny was really important to that particular employer. But I think the thing that I could encourage any fertility patient to do is to use your voice, right? Use your voice to ask for right fertility coverage so that you're able to get the coverage you deserve, right? Fertility care is healthcare. And making sure that people have access to this should look like no other disease state, because infertility is a disease.
Thank you for sharing all that. Continuing on that R, I'd love to hear a little more about the resources that Chick Mission provides, not only in supporting cancer patients, and love to hear a little bit more about the Hope Grant program, but also the ways in which you educate and empower individuals who may not have cancer as well.
Yeah, I mean, cancer is, the one equalizer, and it doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic background, where you work, where you live, who you're voting for. A lot of people are suffering, and we know this is a very timely decision, and we want to give those patients that are sort of deer in the headlights the opportunity and just the quick return, answer to get them to the place they need to be. So if somebody gets diagnosed on a Monday, they're talking to a social worker, hopefully, about the risk of infertility on a Wednesday. And they, through an amazing, fertility partner like RMA, their staff is then helping that patient apply for a grant through our grants program. We work in 8 states now, including New York and New Jersey. We have helped, 570 patients freeze their eggs, seventh baby's on the way. But what I am most proud of, and I think the most important part of our mission, is educating and then advocating. So advocacy and using your voice, and people do want to hear what is wrong with the system and help. Let's help our politicians at the state level. Let's get in their ears. Let's describe certain situations that their constituents are facing, and ultimately change the law as it relates to this. And that's the best part of our mission, which is to be out of business, because every state changes their law. There's both a New York State Medicaid and a New Jersey Medicaid bill that will be introduced in 2025. And private insurers are forced to cover fertility preservation because of some bills we were working on 4 or 5 years ago. But Medicaid, that is a very, very important population that needs these resources more than anyone. And so both of these bills will be something that will affect thousands of patients, and hopefully many more to come.
It's incredible. So proud. Man, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the education piece of our partnership and how players have maybe been more empowered, or how these conversations have even advanced maybe in the past 6 months, year, 2 years since we really kicked this off.
Yes, we kicked this partnership off at the beginning of 2023. And with that, held an information session for our players and coaching staff, and then also our front office staff. I think what's been really exciting is we actually get proactive questions from our players and from staff members saying, how can I participate? How can I learn more? What are my opportunities? We've also gotten some funnier questions that I'll leave to the side related to birth control. And I was like, that's kind of the other end of the spectrum for family planning. But the good news is our players are really engaged, and they are really thinking about this and how it impacts their future. We have 4 pillars from a social and community impact perspective at Gotham, and women's advancement is one of them. And we very much view this relationship as being something that is all about women's advancement and being able to make choices about your life and your body and your future, and how you are able to plan ahead. And so I know for a fact we've had a number of players that have participated. We've also had a number of staff members that have participated in the program and in our information sessions, but also actually taking part in the services of freezing eggs and harvesting and things like that. So it's been very successful from that point of view. And I think we also have seen a really great response from our fans. Our fans over-index pretty heavily on being members of the LGBTQ+ community, and so giving this as a resource for them and being able to educate them and provide that as an option, I think has been really, really impactful.
Amazing. Great. Amanda L., I'd love to hear a little bit more what you're open to sharing about your personal story. I know you were a T1 athlete, and I want to talk a little bit about the athlete's mindset, sort of the grit, determination that goes into, being an athlete as well as going through a fertility journey.
So I did play soccer. Most of my identity from soccer aligns with my husband today, but I also played soccer in college, and it's been a huge part of my life historically, and I've used a lot of that to kind of power through my infertility journey. So I was diagnosed with unexplained infertility when I was 27. I'm now 38, and I never expected it. My husband was a college athlete. I was a college athlete. I was least expecting to get an infertility diagnosis. And we trudged through a lot of pain. We ultimately went through 9 rounds of IVF, and it was about a 7-year period that we went through. And in that, there were so many highs and so many lows. And I think one of the things that's incredibly exhausting about infertility is the decision-making process that happens over and over and over on different things. And I think being able to apply kind of that athlete's mindset of knowing that you're gonna get to your goal, you're gonna get there, it just takes time. And I had a burning desire in me that wouldn't stop, right? And I knew that I was going to be a mom. I knew it was gonna happen. I didn't know how, I didn't know what it was gonna look like, but it happened. I have a 4-year-old and an 18-month-old. through IVF. And actually, my 18-month-old was a surprise after 7 years of going through infertility. And I think, you learn so many lessons as an athlete growing up, but I think like the sheer determination that infertility patients have to have, like applying an athlete's mindset is so helpful because it is really a marathon to get through. I mean, some people's infertility journey may be short, and I hope that for anybody that goes through it. But if it's not, like, try to dig in and know like what your goal is, and eventually you can get there some way. It may not be through fertility treatment. Maybe it ends up being through adoption or surrogacy or some other way to be a mother, right? And I think you don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but if you have that desire to try to work towards it.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm curious, I'd love to hear a little bit more about with that body connection. We're talking about athletes. Body's a little bit micromanaged. It's so important in how you know your body best.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk at the Chick Mission about being the CEO of your own body. I, like many young adults, found my cancer all 3 times myself. And I knew something was wrong. And I trusted my gut. And I just kept pushing my doctor to do more testing and to scan me. And even though I wasn't 40 and didn't technically qualify for a mammogram, she's like, well, I could write you a prescription, but breasts are funny and you're getting older. And I would not take no for an answer. So my body, I have so much respect for it because it saved this body, right? And it told me things. And I'm so grateful because all 3 times it was early stage. And even though I did go through 4.5 years of hell, I'm here, I'm a survivor. I am in full remission. I do still have eggs, but I've decided that I am happy in my life, and the Chick Mission babies are my babies, and my dog is my baby, and everyone else's children are my babies. I love being a godmother and an auntie, and yeah, so I think really recognizing that your body is, I'm training for the marathon right now. I mean, I'm 47, like, yikes. I'm sure, my college athletes aside, this is so hard, but I know it's a marathon and not a sprint, right? That's what treatment's all about. That's what infertility is all about. And that's what changing laws in women's health are all about. So, but yeah.
Amazing. I'm going to use that tagline where infertility is a marathon, not a sprint, Dr. Letterman. I'd love to hear a little bit more just about the grit and determination you see in a lot of your patients who are probably sort of similar to what Amanda was.
Yeah, I mean, Amanda sitting here beautifully shared her story. That's the reality of what we sometimes see. It's nice when it's a quick journey. Some have a very quick journey, but some also have a journey like Amanda, where it's years in the making. And it takes, a team effort to help, our patients navigate their journey. It's a roller coaster of highs and lows. I got 25 eggs, but only 6 fertilized, and I only have 1 to work with. There's highs and lows throughout, the journey. So a team approach is important. So at our program, we have patients work with nurses, fertility care coordinators, we have a social worker. There's a lot of different people who help along the path. From our phlebotomist. I had a patient the other day who was graduating, it was a last pregnancy scan, and she wanted to get the phlebotomist something because she was very sensitive to blood draws. She was one of the patients who you'd have to lie down because she would pass out. And so she would come in the room, they draw her blood, and she knew that, it required a lot of extra attention to make her experience, more tolerable. And she was so appreciative of the phlebotomist, she wanted to get her something because she helped her along the way. So it's truly a team approach, and it requires a lot of perseverance for when you have these really long journeys. And we try as a team to help them persevere. It requires a lot of grit amongst themselves. It's that athlete's mentality of, for them to get themselves to the career where they want to be, it takes a lot of work, a lot of dedication. It's the same thing with the fertility journey. There's so much perseverance, to get there, with the highs and lows, and it's really an athlete's mentality, that these patients go through. And most patients with perseverance will get there. Most will, not all, but most will get there if they persevere. And it just, getting them and helping them, is what we try and help. And, Amanda, what you shared, that's the reality. And that's why it's so important to empower women to take control of their body, to have the knowledge and take control, and have organizations to help support their workers, to help to have fertility benefits, to allow them to take control and make it easier for them to navigate their journey.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that. And we're talking all about these incredible athletes, grit and determination. Dan, I'd love to hear a little bit more from you. These incredible players we're about to see in about an hour. I'd love to hear a little bit more about their mindset and how they're working as a team and what you're excited for this season.
Absolutely. So first of all, I can relate exactly to everything that you said, not the fertility journey part, but I met my husband playing soccer. I played soccer in college. Soccer is my world, clearly. So I owe a lot to the game and to just the sport as a whole. That being said, yes, it 100% takes this athlete's mentality, which is when you're in it, every day is a grind. Every day is takes a little bit more of digging deep in you to see what is that next step, what is that goal, and it's all of the micro goals on the way that let you achieve it. And our players are doing that day in and day out, whether that's on the field or off the field. So there's but the whole point is you have this goal, you have this thing that you want to achieve, and you are committed to achieving it almost in spite of whatever anybody else is telling you, whatever anybody else is, whatever other outside pressures there are. You're forget that. I'm gonna do this because I'm passionate about it and because I believe that I'm going to achieve it and I'm going to get there. And everything that you do is gonna ultimately ladder up to that success. Whatever that success ends up looking like, right? It may change. Your goals may shift along the way, or kind of might be a little bit nebulous. But the point is that you're kind of in it in spite of all of the obstacles in your way. And I think that very much relates to the fertility journey, but also what it takes to be a championship team and a champion on the field as well. So we are, the reigning champs from 2023. We are very hopeful that we're going to be clinching a playoff position today. So, everybody get your cheers ready. And then we actually, right now, today, if the season ended, we would be in a position to host the club's first ever playoff match. So that would be really incredibly exciting, but we're not counting chickens before they're hatched, as they say.
Awesome. Well, we're so excited. And I just want to take a moment. It's awesome that we're all in this room together and in this space, and there's so many synergies. So to end this, I just would love to sort of do a rapid round of what everyone's excited for looking forward. I know a little bit. We'll start with Amanda Rice.
I'm most excited about the 4 bills that are being introduced in 2025. So Medicaid in New York and New Jersey, state laws, all encompassing in Georgia and Florida. So that just lights my fire. It's telling our stories, sharing, getting politicians to pay attention to something like this that's just so hopeful, and it inspires our community. And I think it's going to lead to even better survivorship.
I'm always looking forward to all my patients, when they graduate at their last visit, we follow them to about 8 or 9 weeks pregnant, and then we send them on the way to the OB. Oftentimes, they send us emails and pictures and updates all the time, and it's amazing to see them. Last week I was at an event in Westchester, and one of the dads recognized me, and they were there with the 6 and 4-year-old kids that we had helped. We had helped them start the family, and 2 cute kids, and those things always touch my heart. And to always look forward to helping patients establish the family that they want, because family is important to me, and I love being part of helping others, start the family. And I'm also looking forward to my first professional soccer game today.
We're happy to have you. I guess for me on the field, I'm looking forward to hopefully a deep playoff run, some success on the field as well. But off the field, I am a mom of 3 girls, 5, 3, and 1, with a husband with a ruptured Achilles right now. So we're like really in it. And my fertility journey was, very straightforward, which I'm very grateful for. But I am looking forward to continuing this relationship and being able to provide this service for not just, our players, but also our coaches, our staff, like those who need it, and inspire our fans and to know that they have options for how they plan for the future. So I'm excited about both of those things.
I think that I am the most excited when I reflect on the progress over the last 15 years. I think sometimes as a female today, it can be hard to see that with some political kind of landscapes. But when you reflect on 15 years ago when I graduated college, the women's professional soccer league at the time had collapsed, right? And that's where that was. And now 15 years, here we are, this amazing team playing, having access to incredible fertility benefits coverage. Like you never would expect that just 15 years ago. And I think the same thing for the employer market landscape, right? When I started at Progyny 6 years ago, there were a limited number of employers offering fertility coverage. And now that's table stakes, right? If you are not offering that today, you are not competitive with your peers. And I think from a progress perspective, I'm just that excited about where we are today.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you all for sharing and participating. Get ready to cheer loudly and cheer on Dr. Gerber singing the national anthem. It's one of the colleagues, and we're so excited. Get some food if you haven't already. There's some good stuff in the back. Thanks, everyone.